Okay, I think it's time we get started. Just a little housekeeping. I'm Sandy Ratliff, Virginia Community Capital. Don't forget that to please keep your devices muted unless you want to ask questions to make it easy for everyone, and to keep your video on so that we can see that you're participating. And if you have any issues, either a bird flies on the line and you can't connect with us, please send us a message or some way, if there's any way you can get in touch with us to let us know what's happening. So as always, this is being recorded for education and training purposes, and it'll be uploaded to the Washington County Challenge Facebook page and the Washington County Challenge YouTube page a little later. So tonight, Kathy Lowe with the Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator will be our moderator. So Kathy, I am turning it over to you.
Well, tonight's an exciting night for you all. This is something that you've had questions about from the very beginning. This is titled, Where's the Money? And we are lucky enough to have some folks that can give you some knowledge about that. We have Kate Belcher with First Bank and Trust, who is a loan officer for Small Business Administration loans. And she's going to tell you a little about that. People are a little bit confused about how that works. So we're happy to have Kate, and this is her first year in participating, and we're glad to have somebody that can help you with SBA loans. Jeremy Repass is an old timer like me. He's been doing this, I guess, since we started. Jeremy's with People Incorporated, and if you've ever called me and asked me about financial matters, I've generally referred you to Jeremy. And then Erne, Maddy, is with Virginia Community Capital, and Virginia Community Capital does macro loans. Yeah. Sandy recruited him right out from under People Incorporated, I think it was. so that's how long we've all known each other. But these folks are highly skilled in their field, and they can answer any question you have. And so without further ado, I'm going to start, I think, with Kate, since she's at the top of my screen.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. As she mentioned, my name is Kate Belcher, and I work for First Bank and Trust Company, and I'm the head of our government lending division. So my specialty is in SBA lending. So that's kind of what I'm going to focus on today. Just to tell you a little more about what SBA does, SBA provides government guaranteed loans that are facilitated through the bank. So your loan is with First Bank and Trust, for instance, and then we have a government guarantee on that loan, which helps us to mitigate risk. And it also gives you some additional favorable terms that you may not otherwise get on a conventional basis. So it helps you to obtain financing that may otherwise not be available, especially on startups, or if you're going through your first major expansion. Those are two things that are more risky than your traditional lending package, and therefore we may look to SBA for a guarantee on those type of requests. It gives you a fixed maturity. SBA does not allow loans to balloon. So you make your first payment to First Bank and Trust, and you'll make your last. You will not have to do renewals in the interim. And these loans are available when potentially collateral may be limited, especially, on a startup basis. You may need those funds to purchase your initial collateral. So SBA can help provide that financing for you. It also can help you to establish or reaffirm a relationship with a lender. So the goal of SBA loans are to take small businesses and make them into conventional borrowers, to where you could go, into any bank and get any type of financing that you may need for your business without a government guarantee. One good thing is that SBA helps to reduce that barrier to entry, and oftentimes provides lower equity requirements for your financing request. SBA's minimum amount for startups is 10%. So you could get all of the financing that you need for your business for as little as 10% equity injection into your project. SBA can provide financing for a number of things. Startups, expansions, we talked, it can be to purchase land, to construct a building. If you need to do leasehold improvements to a building that you're renting, SBA can handle that. Can be used to acquire inventory. and equipment that you may need to run your business. They also offer line of credit products to where you can fund your accounts receivable or inventory through short-term revolving type credits versus your term debt with a set principal and interest payment. Trying to see what else, kind of the high notes to point out. SBA's bread and butter, I say, are startups and expansions, which I know Tanya had said the majority of you fall into one of those two categories. So I urge you all to do your research. Reach out to me at any time if you have any questions or if I can help you at all. I think the SBA is a great program and really has helped a lot of small businesses in our area. Any specific things you all want me to hit on?
Kate, you want to talk about the relationship between SBA and some of the COVID resources that were available? I know for some people that process was much easier because they already had a relationship with the bank that did SBA. So just for future, if anything like this were to happen again, the advantages of kind of being in tune with a bank that does this.
Yeah, so hopefully we never go through anything like this again. In the event that we do, the SBA harbored a lot of the stimulus programs. The two that come to light pretty quickly were the PPP or the Paycheck Protection Program, and then the EIDL, which was the Economic Injury Disaster Loans. The EIDL loans are not anything new. However, we have not had a disaster in our area that we would have been eligible for these loans previously. So that's something that will stick around. Those were long-term 30-year fixed rate loans to help get businesses through the pandemic. Additionally, during the first and second stimulus packages, SBA deemed they're called 1112 payments, where they were actually making payments for all existing SBA borrowers and then for all new SBA borrowers. I believe some borrowers even had as many as 9 payments made on their behalf, which would be 9 months of payments. The first round of those were not capped, so we had several borrowers that had significant payments made on their behalf. And then new borrowers through SBA's fiscal year that ended in September 2021, they received 3 payments made on their behalf. So SBA, I think, did a great job of really stepping in to help small businesses through the pandemic, not only through, the Paycheck Protection Program and through the EIDL loans, but also making some payments on borrowers' behalf.
So just one more question, Kate. How would they, how would they get the information about an SBA loan and apply?
Sure. By all means, you're more than welcome to call me. If you want to work with First Bank and Trust, you can contact any of our lenders, and they have all the information that you would need to apply. SBA has their own application that we use. And then if you're a startup, we have some additional requirements. I know they had mentioned you all are working on business plans. That would be required for any startup or first major expansion. Otherwise, we need a list of financials that we could send you to complete and get back to us. So short answer, feel free to contact me anytime. I can get you all the information that you would need on how to apply and what documentation you would need to do so.
Okay, so does anybody have any questions of Kate before we move on to Jeremy? We're going to give you a chance to talk some more about it, but we're kind of doing an overview right this second. Anybody got any other questions? Okay, so let's go on to Jeremy Repass, People Incorporated.
Well, thank you, Kathy. Hello, everybody, and I appreciate your time today and allowing me to be a part of this. I know becoming an entrepreneur or being an entrepreneur is something that a lot of people desire to do, but nobody envies those folks once they get started. So kudos to all of you. As Kathy was saying earlier, my name is Jeremy Repass. I'm with People Incorporated. I'm the senior business lender with People Incorporated. Been with them for about 6 years now. And kind of like Kate, we deal with the SBA in a little bit different realm in that we do the SBA microloans, which are loans that are typically $50,000 and under, and with the cap of 72 months, so 6 years on those is the longest term that I can go. That rate right now is 7.5%. We are currently experimenting with risk-based ratings. So in the near future, there will be a good chance that you would get a lesser interest rate, just depending upon the risk, such as, how much collateral you're injecting into the project, credit rating, those kind of things. What I will note is the SBA loans, the microloan program, is a little bit different than Kate's, in that where she gets a guarantee from the SBA, we're actually dealing with money that People Incorporated has borrowed directly from the SBA. And the thing that we do is we try to be that bridge when you go to your local bank or your financial institution, or like Virginia Community Capital, to try to get some of those larger loans or even the smaller ones. If there's, factors that just can't be mitigated at the present time, we try to be that bridge to where we can get you into a bankable status. Okay. There's times that Kate and just like us, there's times that banks and so forth just aren't able to make it happen for a business for whatever reason. But the worst thing that any of us as lenders want to do is shut that door on you and not give you an alternate option if we have one. And that's where People Incorporated tries to step in to get you to more bankable status. So you can say that, while, Burger King and McDonald's and everybody are trying to compete against each other, folks like Erne and Kate and myself at People Incorporated, we all kind of work together to try to make your dream a reality and try to get the financing that you need. In addition to the microloans that we offer, one thing that we can't do that Kate had mentioned she's able to do is I can't finance real estate with that money. We can do inventory. We can do working capital. We can purchase equipment. We can do property improvements, but we can't actually do the purchase aspect of any type of property. We also administer several CDBGs. It's an acronym, and you'll find in our world that there's tons of acronyms that we have to keep a Rolodex for on a daily basis. But CDBG stands for Community Development Block Grants. And these are the type of grants that are created within a locality, such as the town of Abingdon or the Washington County or things of that nature, that they just don't have the time or the manpower to administer those loan funds. So what they do is the localities will invest that money into that program and will assign People Incorporated the administrative fees for that program and let us administer those loans for them. One that quickly comes to mind is like your downtown Bristol redevelopment program. It's been around, Erne, I'd say that's probably been around since you've been at People Inc. Yeah. And it's a real good program. It focuses mainly on the State Street corridors, but they're real eager to expand on that if they need to and go outside of the RAM if you're outside of those perimeters. But that's just an example. There's many CDBGs. I could probably go on for days and still miss a lot of them. So the best thing to do would be to reach out to People Incorporated and just say, hey, I'm in this area. Is there anything right now that is going on? The SBAs or CDBGs and so forth. We also administer a fund called, it's an acronym NDDF, which is the 9th District Development Financing Program. This was a program put in place by Congressman Rick Belcher. Right off the top of my head, I can't remember exact year that it come out, but I know he was in office sometime around 96 or 95. And he started up this program for the Congressional 9th District of Virginia that's solely based around tourism. If your business is any type of business that caters to tourism or draws tourism in to the area, I would highly advise you to reach out and speak with us about this program. It's at right now it's at 3.5%. So you get a very good term. Depending upon the collateral being used, we can go upwards of 10 years, maybe even 20 with a balloon if need be. But like I said, it is focused around tourism. It's a very good program. There's been a lot of businesses in the area or in the region that have used this program, particularly over towards like your spearhead trails and those areas. Yeah, and I think I've touched on just about everything that I had written down here. If your business is a tourism-based business, it may be something that the NDDF committee hasn't dealt with before. Here lately, or there for a while, we were getting real big in the downtown Bristol area for breweries. And this was something new to the NDDF committee. And the first one or two that I kind of presented to them, it was a little tough because they've had some turnover in that committee. So there was, doing a brewery was kind of new. And I kind of did some research myself and presented it to them because there's, as some of you may know, that brew trail. And breweries were popping up in a lot of places because they were coming a part of the local tourism in the area. So, they've recently expanded out to doing breweries and those kind of things if we can show that it improves the tourism within that area. So, I'll open it up for questions, but if it depends. If everybody wants to hold off, I'll let Erne or whoever go next, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions that you all may have as far as the application process and so forth.
Okay, so does anybody have any questions about Jeremy's overview before we move on to Erne? Janice?
Can you talk about some of the businesses other than breweries that particular program has funded recently?
Yes, ma'am. We've done some campgrounds, local campgrounds for the area. Those may consist of just RV camping sites, or those may consist of like cabins. Because of disclosures that were signed and some of the publicity that's been done on those businesses, one in particular that comes to mind is, and he's become a real close acquaintance of mine, real good family, is over Foxtail Orchard over in Tazewell. They have the campgrounds there on the back of the Dragon. He just recently a few years ago, put in a couple campsites and had most recently just built his third. It's a small cabin that they put in up there just off a route. I think it is 16 that goes across towards Tazewell. That's one of the businesses that has utilized this program. I think some years back, and Erne, you may have had a part of this, I think the Barter Theater Stage 2 may have utilized some of those funds. That was before my time. I want to say Erne may have had a big hand in that. I'm not sure. It's kind of all over the place. I mean, they've done quite a bit of things, and it's a revolving loan fund. So sometimes those funds may or may not be available. Prior to my call, I wanted to kind of get, when I seen Kathy's email or Sandy's email that there was some tourism-based businesses on here, I kind of wanted to reach out to our accounting. And I think currently we sit somewhere in the ballpark of 400 to 450,000 that's available in that program. Hopefully that answered some of your question there as for what utilization of those funds have been used for.
We're going to get around to letting each individual tell you all about their businesses as soon as we hear from Erne.
All right. Thanks, Kathy. My name is Erne Maddy. I'm a senior vice president in the commercial real estate department for Virginia Community Capital Bank. For small business and real estate financing, we have kind of two different programs that would handle this. We have a small business team that handles if it's going to be, it could still be real estate. If you're purchasing the building you're working out of and it's going to be owner occupied, that's in our small business development team. And then over the side that I work on, commercial real estate, I haven't had a chance to see all of the types of businesses you're doing, but if any of you, I know we've had it in some of the ones in the past, they purchased properties and renovated them and then held onto those properties and leased them out. That can be either residential or commercial properties or mixed use properties that we do programs on there. I do a lot of multifamily financing on affordable housing or apartments. At VCC, we're a little bit different. We are still a for-profit bank, just like First Bank and Trust and all of your other hometown banks, but we are owned by a nonprofit. So there are certain categories of types of businesses or types of loans that we can look at that we're allowed. We get grants through the nonprofit holding company, and we're able to blend that grant money with our normal market rate money to get below market rates for some of the types of, on our small business side that we do that with are, we have a food access fund where for help, if it's what's considered a food desert and you're providing healthy food access to residents in that area, we have a grant program that goes along with our loan fund, our normal loan fund. Sometimes it's used to purchase a rate down. Other times it's used actually to, if you have an equity shortfall and you don't have as much money putting it into the program, into your project, we can kind of use money from that for a loan loss reserve that will allow us to do those types of loans. And we have a solar energy, clean energy loan fund as well. So any business that's around clean energy, solar, water, whatever it may be, we are able to kind of do the same thing there, where we blend a grant that was provided by different agencies with our market rate money to get below market rates for those types of businesses. And it can go for the construction of the solar fields. It can go for equipment, anything necessary for any of those types of renewable energy businesses. On the commercial side, we do a lot. Our mission when the bank was first started was in affordable housing. So I don't know if any of these businesses are in real estate, but if you know of anyone and they're going into providing affordable housing in Washington County or in the area here, we have some grant funds for that as well that we can we merge that with our normal market rate funds to be able to do below rates for anywhere from 50% of the AMI in the area all the way up to 120%. We do the same SBA loans that Kate mentioned there that First Bank Trust work with. If we don't do a ton of startups, again, if it's the smaller startups, I think like Kathy had mentioned, we actually refer people to Jeremy as well. Myself, I worked at People Incorporated for quite a while doing what Jeremy's doing. Our small business loan officer here at VCC also worked at People Inc. doing what Jeremy's doing. So we're familiar with their programs, and we brag on them a lot because they are really good for the startup programs. What our small business team, what we've seen lately, the largest is business acquisition. We do a lot of business acquisition loans, and then there's been some here, I guess, recently too. We do a lot of equipment purchasing for either could be startup businesses or expanding businesses that are kind of moving into a new market or starting to produce a new product. We can take a look at the business expansion there on the equipment. Other than that, we're similar to First Bank and Trust in some areas, and then we're similar to People Inc. and others where we get grants. We don't give out grants directly to the for-profit businesses. We're not set up like that, but we're able to use the grant money to get you better terms, or maybe make up a gap in equity, or do a loan loss reserve where if it's a riskier type business, it may be able to allow you to get into that project where normally you couldn't at a normal bank. And then the clean energy and the food access. So it's kind of a rundown of what we do.
Okay, so I think probably now we need to start with Jamie and let him tell you all a little bit about his business, and maybe, if you've got some business needs, you could talk about that.
So as Tanya said earlier, I don't think all of you were on there, but at the time, but I'm starting a private investigation business. And type of things that I would need would be equipment. My area of expertise is in digital forensics, and so I want to be able to offer that service as part of my investigation services as well, because it's becoming more and more of a demand, and digital forensics are growing fast. And so my needs would be forensic computer, forensic software, licensing, subscriptions to different search engines, things like that. Something like people finders that go a step beyond. Mainly, the biggest expense that I would have would be probably for the forensic computer. That would run in the neighborhood of $15,000 to $20,000. And then subscriptions and maintenance fees for the softwares and things that I use, they run in ballpark of about $3,000 to $5,000 a year. So that's what I would be looking to secure a loan for.
So do you have any questions for any of the folks that we've just introduced?
No, my only question, I guess, for Kate would be, I know Jeremy talked about, the 6-year microloan, and under $50,000 at 7.5%. And, that kind of sounds like it fits my wheelhouse. I guess my question for Kate would be, what kind of rates and terms does First Bank and Trust offer?
Sure. So SBA allows us through the 7A program to potentially go up to 120 months for all of the type needs that you mentioned. So potentially a maximum term of 120 months. And our rates are looking currently, which, is subject to change, right, somewhere between 5% and 6%.
So where I'm not selling a product and selling a service. And so how does that work? I mean, I really don't have a product or anything as collateral or a storefront or anything like that at this point that I would have as collateral. So would I put up so much of my own money into that first?
Potentially, yes. I guess speaking on our loans, yes, a minimum of 10% since it is a startup. We can look to your terms or your rate potentially can be more favorable if you put in personal assets as collateral. SBA says we have to take a lien on everything we finance. So I know we could take a UCC on your equipment and potentially some general intangibles. But it more than likely would be looked at on more of an unsecured basis unless you did use personal assets as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So next on my screen is Janet Meadows. Janet?
Okay, I have a business called Mendota Expeditions, and basically last year it was simply river tubing, and I'm just hoping to maybe expand it and extend my season, maybe add some other things like maybe some origami kayaks, things that I can move around pretty easily, and maybe set up some camps, organized camps for kids, birthday parties. As far as loans go, I guess the money that I would need would be for like some of the equipment. And I only have like a temporary setup that I'm using down on the riverside. And that's a trailer and portable bathroom units. So eventually I do want to, set up a more permanent building with bathrooms if possible. So that's what I'm looking toward. And I was really happy to hear about the tourism loan that's got a really good interest rate. I didn't even realize People Incorporated gave loans out like that. So that's good news for me.
And that can be utilized for what your business entails too. So.
Okay.
I started to say, did our moderator get
Yeah, I'm sorry. Had to
get
excuse
kidnapped?
I needed to excuse myself. So
According to her background, she just walked down to the beach.
that's right. I had to put that beach background in. I've had a tough day. Nothing to complain about, but it's just been a day. So the next person on my screen is Katie Humphreys.
Hey, I'm Katie Humphreys. I've got a kids consignment shop here in Abingdon. This May, we're going to be 11 years since having started. So I guess for me, the hope at some point would be to acquire a building to do my business instead of having to pay rent every month. So I guess I am probably looking to Kate just for some advice about that. I don't know. I think you had said like a 10% equity injection for your loans. But I didn't know as far as if it's like an acquisition of a building, if that's different. I had always thought that you had to put like 40% down to get a building, which is why I haven't been able to do it. But if you could speak a little bit more to that, I would greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. So SBA will actually allow us to finance 100% if we take, the bank's going to require additional collateral or a down payment in that instance. But where you're not, yes, technically you're expanding, but purchasing real estate, they don't require us to require you to put in a certain amount. Typically, though, we do still like to see 10 to 15% on real estate purchases. But yes, that's definitely something that we can help you with. Can go up to 20 or 25 years. Again, there's no balloon on that. It does just price adjust. So the interest rate will change every 5 years, but you do not have a balloon.
That's great. Thank you. What are those rates looking at today? I mean, I know it changes all the time, but just as sort of like a ballpark general figure, like say for like $250,000, like what does that look like?
Sure. Anywhere between, again, probably in the 5 to 6 range, potentially even for 0.75, kind of depending on the project.
And I think this is a good question for actually all of our lenders. This is in, I think it fits all the lenders, some of their criteria. So Jeremy?
Yeah, I was just going to add, and that in the purchase of a property, I know I'd mentioned with SBA, I can't purchase real estate with SBA, but People Inc. Here recently has gotten more aggressive with, we'll go to different banks and borrow money at a much lower interest rate, say because of the equity and or the collateral and so forth that People Inc. may use, such as real estate and so forth. We may go to a bank and say, hey, can you work out something with us where you'll borrow, you'll lend us $2 million on a X amount of term loan at say 2.5%. Well, then we'll turn right around and lend that money out to businesses to help get them started, giving us a little bit of a yield. So, we pay 2.5% on it. We may loan it out in like the 7.5% again, and we've got a 5% yield there. But to kind of tag on to what Katie was saying, and I'm sure that Erne will mirror that to an extent, because like Kathy was saying, we all kind of work in the same or in connection with each other. As long as your bank, let's say you go to Kate and she says, hey, you're wanting to purchase a building for $150,000, you're going to need 10% down. Well, that's $15,000. Well, as long as you discuss with your lender up front, and that's the one most important thing I can say is be forthcoming with your lenders. Let them know everything about your situation that you are aware of up front. But as long as you go to Kate and say, hey, is there anything that forbids me from borrowing this money? If I get this rate from People Incorporated and my monthly terms or my payment is going to fit within my debt to income or my cash flow, is this something doable? Now, some programs may eliminate you from borrowing that money, some may not, but that's kind of where I was talking about People Inc. being that bridge over that gap is, if you need that 15K to put down and it's something that you're allowed to do, you could come and talk to me and say, hey, theoretically, what would my payments run on 15,000? What could I do to use this as a down payment? Kate would probably, because they're biting off the bigger chunk, they're probably going to want to take a first lien position against that property. This is where People Inc. can kind of get creative and use maybe some of the personal assets to provide a monetary adjustment or front to those with that 15,000. So say you have a vehicle that's worth 15,000 or have 15,000 equity in it. We could take that as collateral, do the 15,000 loan that provides you that 10% down payment for Kate or Erne to process. And there again, I don't want to speak out of turn because some programs may not allow that lending aspect or that borrowing aspect. But if it does, that's definitely where People Incorporated can step in and help.
Yeah,
Never knew. Sorry.
Yeah, we've done that where I'm not sure about the SBA loans, but I know our own loan fund, that the funds that we use that aren't SBA guaranteed, that money can be borrowed. Again, like Jeremy mentioned, the business still has to be able to debt service both of those loans then instead of just the one we're doing. So we would verify all that information with People Inc. on what the loan terms were and what the debt service was on the smaller amount. So you definitely got to take that into account that you're having to debt service both of those payments, but that is something we could look at doing. I think 85% is the max we'll do on an owner occupied property.
Okay, thank you very much, Katie. And next on my screen is Kitsy.
Hey guys, I own a boutique in Abingdon. We're actually on East Main Street right now, but we're moving downtown. So we're expanding a little bit this year.
Yeah.
Yay. So we're excited about that. And so by the way, if anybody needs a space on East Main Street, just saying. So hopefully we will be expanding. So I'm very grateful that you guys are doing this class for us today.
So do you have any lending questions? Any questions?
I don't have any specific questions right now. I actually have some, I use some working capital through my e-commerce business part. So we actually have a working capital loan through them right now.
Very good. Okay, well, thank you very much. And Scott Little is next.
Hey guys, so I'm working on opening a music venue in Abingdon. It'll be a ticketed music venue. We already have a retail store in the location, but we're working on it in the larger space, having a music venue, and it would be a weekend type event space. It's probably going to be, I've hit a couple of little bumps. We have to do some things before we can open up, get some special unique insurance, because liability is, I've learned over the last 2 weeks that it's a high liability, high risk type of endeavor because you're bringing the public in large numbers into a small space. So I'm working on that, but we're probably going to be open in the fall. I was hoping for May. But we have to put in a bathroom and do some other type stuff from the insurance perspective. So it's probably going to be early fall, maybe September. I want it to be done right. So we've got some work to do. But one thing with the insurance thing that I've learned, and I wanted to ask this about loans, with a music venue where you're allowing the public to come in and there's alcohol, there'll be a craft beer bar and there'll be music and there'll be large speakers and a stage and people everywhere, kind of on a crowded corner street, Wall and Plum, in downtown Abingdon. Do you guys have to take that kind of risk into consideration when you're talking about loans for, let's say, music equipment or sound systems or anything like that, is that a high risk endeavor from a loan perspective? I don't know who would answer that question, but
I mean, it's more high risk now because you need the public to come in, and with COVID, we've seen over the last 2 years when's it really going to be over, and you're going to be able to trust that the public will be able to come in on a regular basis. But normally that wouldn't be a problem, because what we're going to do before we would close the loan, obviously, is we're going to make sure that it's compliant, code compliant or zoning compliant. And as long as you're meeting those requirements and the town is okay with you putting that type of business in, I wouldn't see as that is, add additional risk other than what it is normally for an event venue. I mean, the location wouldn't affect it. But yeah, we would just take a look at obviously the projections are going to be key, not just for your business, but any type of business. When you come to a bank, if you're a startup, you've got to really know your numbers. You got to know where they're coming from, what you use to kind of reach those numbers, not just, I think I can have 75 people every night to watch a band play. Why can you have 75? How many people do you have to employ to be able to have 75 in there safely, or whatever it may be to service that many people that you're bringing in? But that in of itself wouldn't be a riskier type business, not with us, I don't believe.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I'll second Erne on that. With People Inc., we would more look at it from what type of insurance and what type of coverage you have to cover those liabilities. In that regard, such as like a logging company that has, it's kind of the same way in a different way. I hate the sound, that's kind of an oxymoron, but to say that the logging industry is very dangerous. And the one thing that they look for, if there's a key element within that business, with the logging, then we focus on key man insurance to make sure that business can still sustain itself should that key person be, put out of commission or something like that. And that might not be the case in your situation, but it would just be more of are you covered from an insurance standpoint in regards to liability? So it's kind of one of them things. We're not experts in any one business, so we kind of rely on the resources that we have, just like you all. But I'll second what Erne says.
I appreciate that, guys. I think one of the things now that I have, two retail locations and then opening this third kind of endeavor, and I have a couple other small business things that I do in addition to all this that are very small. But I think one thing that I'm going to do with the liability issues is create a holding company that kind of oversees all of these businesses. That I think, just from talking with some folks, and I have a business mentor, I think that's probably the next growth point for me, is create that holding company. And then we can, that way, if something happens in, like, a speaker falls on someone at the venue, or someone trips because somebody spilled a beer, my Green Cove Collective store in the front of the building is not being held liable or in any way. So the holding company hopefully will protect all my other businesses. So these are things that I haven't thought about now that I'm doing something different. So yeah, all of this helps me. I've got a lot to do. I mean, I chose one of the most complicated things to do because there's so many moving parts. Now that I'm knee deep into it, I realize how much it's going to take, and that's why I think it's probably going to be more of a fall launch. But yeah, thank you guys for all that. I appreciate it.
So next on my screen is Lori Briscoe.
Hey y'all. So I own Appalachian Teas and Botanicals, and I'm pretty much the only type shop that is providing regionally sourced, organic, sustainably grown plant products. And I have two kind of primary markets. One is wellness and the other is tourism. So I'm kind of balancing both of those things. I incorporated in spring, I guess, a little less than 2 years ago, opened a retail face in December of 2020, so just a year ago. And I'm in a position where I need to scale up dramatically. I'm a one-person operation, and I am in need of some marketing expertise, but also some equipment to be able to meet some demand that I can't do currently. I have a few questions for you. One is probably for all of you, and I think it's just being where I'm at, not knowing who to approach for this kind of place that I'm in would be, as lenders, from your perspective, what would be the top 5, 7, whatever characteristics or qualifications that you can specifically tell me what I need to bring to the table if I were to meet with you, that would make my application most likely to succeed with you, I guess, is the biggest question that I have.
That's a great question. Thanks. Yeah. I'll touch on a couple of them and let everybody else jump in. But obviously, Kate mentioned earlier, your business plan is going to be key, because where you're ramping up, we would obviously, where you've been in business, it's only been a year, but it has been a year at least. So you do have some concrete numbers that you can put into the plan. You see the demand that you're seeing right now. So it would make that a little easier for you to be able to come up with the projections on the numbers. Because you got to be able to show, first, your numbers make sense, but you got to be able to show that the numbers are going to be able to support the debt that you're trying to take on, what may it be, the equipment or the space or materials or whatever it may be. You've got to be able to show that within that plan. Be detailed with what you need. Nothing makes a banker flip off the switch and you come in saying you'll take whatever you can get. That means you're not ready to borrow money yet. The more detailed you can be on that, the more detailed on the money you're spending, what your expenses are, knowing what they're going to be, knowing if this new change is going to increase it. Obviously, if you're hiring people, it's going to increase it. Or if you're just bringing on a marketing consultant, it would still increase expenses. Just showing that you know that, you understand that. So you obviously know you've got to sell more if you're going to be spending more. So those are the basics. Are just, I'm a numbers guy. So when I see a business plan, the first thing I do is go straight to the numbers and see what they look like. Does it make sense first? Second, what debt service? And do you have a handle on kind of what your expenses are? The first couple things that I would look at, seeing something where either if it's a startup or an expansion like you're talking about going through.
Yeah, just to play off of what Erne said, I'm a numbers person too, so I'm right there. The numbers is a big key for me. I want to know that you didn't, wake up, you dreamt that I want to do this and you woke up and you came and saw me. I want to know that you put thought behind it. One thing I kind of wrote down is an explanation of what you need, why you need it, and what it's going to do for you. So I think that kind of with the numbers is kind of the key to come to the table to start those conversations.
Jeremy?
I tagged in at the tail end, so it's kind of like I'm just going to sound like I'm copycatting everybody. But yeah, Erne and Kate done a wonderful job at pinpointing those key things. And something that I might add is, if it's something that we're looking at and we're kind of, on the fence about what you're putting into this is going to sway it, could very well sway us either way. A lot of people come and I have a habit of being brutally honest. So forgive me if this comes across that way, but some businesses will come and they'll say, well, I'm putting up all my equipment. Well, if you take an out-of-body experience from the borrower and put it in the lender's perspective, if it's just equipment that someone's looking at, that's not to say that the loan can't or won't get done. However, if it's just the business equipment that's involved in this, such as inventory and those kind of things, it gets a little risky. And the reason being is that because if that business fails, that equipment or that inventory serves no purpose to the business owner. Now, on the other hand, that business owner could say, well, I could liquidate those assets and recoup some of my money. Well, if a business, and I've seen this before, that folks come to us and a business is ultimately failing and it's just not going in the right direction at all. And they come and one that I'm speaking of was in Northern Virginia, so I can speak to this without naming names, but they came to us and it was a authentic Mexican restaurant that was coming to us, and they were saying, hey, the guy saying, I'm all in this. I need $50,000 and I'm willing to put up all my kitchen equipment. And I didn't even get into the point of how much that kitchen equipment valued for, because with all due respect, that liquidation of those assets could be exactly what that person's trying to do in the form of getting a loan against that equipment just to release the loan. So that's why I say that your personal injection, any type of personal assets that you put into that, is going to help tip that pendulum in your favor in a big way. And that's going to help mitigate those things that Erne and Kate had mentioned, such as your numbers and so forth. If it's a type of business that just don't look like it's going to make a profit in the way that we would so desire for it to, your personal injection and what you've got into it's going to help sway that in your favor.
And one more thing I'd add, I think I speak for the other two group, First Bank and People Inc. You're going to be asked to personally guarantee this debt. It's not something where they're going to let you sign and it's going to be a loan just to the business and you're not personally guaranteeing it. So know everything about yourself personally there, your credit, your own personal financial situation. There's no need to try to hide something. If you know it's in there, bring it up on the very first day. If it's something in your credit history or something in your financial history that's going to jump out, it's better to address it up front, because obviously we are going to do the credit reports and searches, and if it's out there, we're going to end up finding it, and then you've wasted a lot of your time where you thought that you may have an avenue for funds, and then that pops up. So a lot of times, if it's something you mentioned in the front and we see it's going to be an issue while you're working through the application process, you can be working through trying to clean that up as well. Hopefully, if there's anything out there for any of you guys that are going to need funding, you already know about it and you're already working on it, because some things obviously do take longer than others to clean up. But know everything about your back credit history and have a good good hold on what your own financial situation is, because we're also going to look if the business is struggling, do you have a secondary source of income that's going to help you make those payments if needed, or at first sign of trouble, is it the smallest hiccup going to make it go under? So just make sure you know all the financials, not only on the business but yourself personally.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that? Sure. Real quick? And it may be unique to my situation, but as a lender, how do you look at it? So for instance, in my case, I've already poured personal collateral, everything into my business so that I could minimize the debt that I've had to carry. But now that I'm at this position to scale up as a lender, how do you look at that? Like, I can't maybe come to the table with more to put in other than the blood, sweat, tears, and money so far. But do you look at it as this has already gone into it to get to this point, moving forward? How does that look to you as a lender?
I think from what you put into it, and that's a very good question, because, I just spoke about personal injection. And if you started up a business and been in business for a year and you've taken on little debt, that money had to come from somewhere. And 99.9% of the time, that money was yours. So it's personal injection in that business. So I think, seeing where the business stands and what all the business itself holds, and seeing little debt there kind of helps speak to those terms. And, when we're looking at things, at least that's how I'm going to look at them, to start off with is, and we may have a sit down conversation where we talk and hash out these things about where specific money came from if there's no debt associated with it. So that's a very good question. And I think, like I said, that goes hand in hand with personal injection with us.
Anybody else?
I mean, that's the hardest thing in the world to try to monetize is your sweat, what we call sweat equity in a business. Obviously, we know that it's there, but what is it actually worth? So how do you put a number on it? So obviously, any tangible assets that you use your own money to purchase, those are easy to quantify there. It's a little tougher on the other side, but it's definitely something that any banker is going to look at positively if you haven't taken on debt.
Okay, thank you. So we are to Michael Price.
Hey, I'm Mike Price. I'm going to be doing a virtual tour systems for local businesses. Trying to do something with the pandemic and, where you get foot traffic. Just trying to do a little different marketing type of thing to, maybe expand to let businesses, start selling through that system as well. Because you can actually do a Google Street View into the location, and within that system, I can put in clickable links to products that are on the shelf or whatever, and then that link would actually take them to a website. So it's really trying to go down that realm at the moment. No questions.
It's good to see you, Mike Price. I haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you.
Do, buddy.
I think that's a pretty awesome idea, by the way.
I do too, yeah.
I mean, for someone to like do a Google search and then go into someone's store and click on an item and then order it off their website straight from their phone, that's pretty brilliant.
We'll see how it goes, I guess.
Okay, our moderator's back.
So Michael, do you have any financial?
I do not.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Janice Thayer.
Hello, I am researching and planning for starting up a retail business that would combine local Appalachian finds, could be vintage, could be local artists that I've cherry picked, the things that I think are the best products that they have, and locally, regionally sourced things like Lori's products, all brought together in an environment where tourists would come and shop, and it would anchor to the Appalachians and this unique area. Although I would not limit what I would sell there just to Appalachia. It could be brand new products. It could be any mix of things. So my history is I own an interior architecture and planning firm. I have since 1996. And have done a lot of furniture purchasing, art, et cetera, over the years, and installations. So I have a lot of backgrounds with that. I've just never brought it into a retail environment. So from a loan perspective, I would probably have to have some loan basis to purchase some of the larger furnishings purchases, depending on how many pieces I decided to have in there as new pieces versus the vintage things that I could just pick as I went along. And then fixtures and things like that for the store, although it's going to be very non-traditional. So at this point, I don't have any loan questions. I have gotten business loans in the past, and I understand that process. So it's good to hear about these programs, though. I didn't know people ink loaned those levels of money, and I think that's a huge asset where you don't need to get into a massive loan. And the terms sound much more viable for a lot of people. So a lot of great information tonight. So thank you.
And next on my screen is Clint Waddell.
Hello, I'm with Blue Mountain Therapy. We are looking to expand. We have been in the medical business, but we're looking to expand into just the improving quality of life for all abilities. So we've got the old Playdate Play Now playground that was down here beside of JJ's. We purchased that. And we just purchased the Time to Play that was down beside of Logan. So we purchased that playground equipment as well. So we're going to be expanding the business into a little bit of a fun phase. I'll tell you a little bit about our history. So we've been open for a little over 8 years. We had a horrible time getting the bank to even want to talk to us. Finally, I met a guy at Sam Snead Tire, and we we're both getting our oil change at the same time. And he was with First Community Bank. And we kind of hit it off a little bit, went and ate at the Bonefire. And next thing you know, he needed a commercial client, and I needed a commercial banker. And so I was his first commercial client. But yeah, we struggled when we first opened. We had to factor invoices. I'm sure the financial folks on here are very familiar with what factoring invoices are, but it was like, oh man, it was like title loan sharks. I mean, it was high interest rates. When our CPA figured it up over a year's time, we were, with those factoring invoices, we were over 30-some% APR for the year. And I'll let some of these other guys explain in greater detail how factoring invoices work. But I wish that we had the banking relationship before year number 4, year number 5, because that was just what we kept being told, is none of the banks really wanted to work with us until we had 4 or 5 years under our belts. The only question I would ask is, or that I have, is how can we actually do our best to make sure that we get the best rates and terms? Because it seems like one bank will have great rates, but then you're going to pay more in closing costs, or what I like to refer to as the hidden fees, or you're going to pay a little bit higher in a rate and the lower fees. So it just seems like the banking industry, I mean, you don't see those new banks being built without a profit coming in. And I noticed New People's Bank announced their best year in profits ever. But what can we do as the small businesses to ensure that we set ourselves up and really try to figure out how to get those best rates?
Well, in our end, obviously the best rates are going to come with the most secure loans, the less risk. So obviously the collateral, if we don't do the type of financing you were referring to, the kind of factoring invoices where that's kind of the collateral for the loans. Obviously that's a higher risk loan. And that may be why our bank chose not to do that type of lending in the beginning. We'll sometimes keep accounts receivable as collateral on a loan, but that wouldn't be the only collateral. It would just be something to add to the pot to kind of strengthen it, which would allow, if obviously real estate is going to be your best security. And as you go down the list of what can be used as collateral, as you go down the list, the rate increases because the risk increases. So then the best way to reduce risk, obviously you've been in business, I think you said 4 or 5 years or whatever it was. So you've got a history that's going to help. It's going to show, you've done it. You know how much you're making a year. You know what your expenses are. You've handled them. You've expanded. You're taking on another expansion. So obviously those are all things that's going to reduce risk, which always improves rate and terms. And again, it depends on what you're trying to use the money for. If it's working capital, is going to be a higher rate. If you're using it to purchase equipment or real estate, it should be a lower rate and lower fees as well. So
no,
I'll let the other ones jump in.
I'll copy what Erne said in that the risk factor is going to be your ultimate, deciding factor. People Incorporated has pretty much I know for the last 6 years, because I've been there, have pretty much been prime plus 4 in their interest rates. And then interest rates were all over the place. So we kind of just set it at 7.5% and left it alone because it was ever so changing and drastically so. But, we wanted to get into like I said earlier, a more risk-based interest rate, kind of like your banks and so forth do, just to give everybody that's got a little bit less of a risk or presenting a little bit less of a risk, a little bit better opportunity to get money at a cheaper price. I will say that you mentioned closing fees, and People Incorporated does charge a 3% closing fee on all loans that can be included in that loan itself. But I think if you'll go into a bank, and you're especially the banks locally around here, because I can speak to, First Bank and Trust and what was BB&T and some of those places. I've known, pretty much lenders from every bank. And I can say that I don't think there's any one local community bank around here or national bank with any local lenders that would ever try to get anything over on most people. I think if you'll go into them and talk to them and say, hey, you know, what's all these fees that are included in here aside from the risk rating factor? I think most of them would be pretty forthcoming to you, or legally they should, but I don't think you'll have that much of a problem around here. The one thing I will say is that there's been a couple times, well, quite a few times actually, that I've helped folks with some of these online lenders. I'll just be honest with you. If my business and my livelihood was on the line, I would deal with a person I can go in and sit kneecap to kneecap with and discuss these things, hands down. I've seen some of these lenders online, like, and I don't care to call them out because it's the payday lending of business loans, like your Cabbage, I think was the name of a company. And there was another one that won't come to mind. But I mean, these people are charging 32% interest rates on loans, and they require you to make payments on a sometimes weekly basis. It's just ridiculous. I mean, it's sad. So the best advice I could give would be to deal with your local lenders that you can sit down with and come face to face, because locally within the community, we have a personal reputation that we want to keep too. So we're going to try and do our very best to get you the best rate and be as honest with you as we possibly can.
It's true. Very true. And so we are, Nita, I know you've got your hand up, and we're going to call on you after the contestants are done. Oh, you don't? Okay. Crispy.
Apologize. I was trying to get my phone off mute. I'm hoping to open a Airbnb in Mendota and a bike shop. I've already purchased the 2 brick and mortar buildings. I don't have any questions other than if you could find me an electrician, carpenter, and a plumber, I would be more than grateful. Everyone is booked 20 months out, and I'm kind of at a standstill right now. And but it's awesome to know that there's funds for the tourism. I'm like Janet up there in Mendota. I want to help bring tourism to Southwest Virginia. And, you know, I know we can do that with, you know, lodging and entertainment. So that's exciting to find out that there's funds allocated to that. So I don't really have any specific questions at this moment, but so thankful for all the information you all have shared tonight. It's wonderful.
So I'll just get back maybe to Jeremy. So can you go into a little bit more detail about your loan fund that's for tourism?
Yeah, the NDDF, the 9th District Development Financing, that would as well be right up the protocol for what the 9th District was designed for. I didn't, until I got with People Incorporated, I didn't focus that much on tourism and see how vital it was to any community. I mean, you show me any community that's not pulling in some type of tourism, and I'll show you I'll show you multiple local businesses that are struggling. It's really tough. And I think particularly the town of Abingdon, and I'm sure Tanya, you all have tons to do with this, but I think, you know, the town of Abingdon has done really well here lately with the lodging and so forth that they have put into place and gotten in here, because it was something much needed for a while. And it's a tough thing to endure. But that 9th District Development Financing really focuses on those type of businesses, whether they be small or large, that's going to bring outsiders into a community, because that's where it's at. I mean, the Spearhead Trails, St. Paul is just one of those towns that have just taken off because of those Spearhead Trails and the ordinance that they've lifted in regards to ATV usage and stuff within the town limits. And so it's that NDDF is just a great program at a great rate that just is they really push to draw in that tourism.
Thank you very much. And so now we are down to, wait just a minute. I had somebody on there, Aaron Miller, but he looks like we lost him. Does anybody see Aaron?
He may be back. He's coming and going. I think he was in his car. Maybe he wanted to run in. But before you get off the tourism thing, I just wanted to mention last Wednesday's new knowledge session was presented by Virginia Tourism Corporation, Steve Gallion and Kristen Johnson. And they went over some new grant programs that the Tourism Authority is offering. So if you get a chance, I suggest you go to either our Facebook, the Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator's Facebook page, or go to our YouTube channel, New Knowledge, and look at that. Again, they've got some new grants that was just recently announced, so it might could help you.
Yep.
Sandy, I'll also add that last round in Virginia Tourism Corporation Marketing Leverage Grants, the Martha Washington Inn applied for $10,000 and received that. And they're in the process of working with William King and other businesses to put together a rack card that is 17 reasons to get off of exit 17. And they have plans to use that rack card in welcome centers, in the Virginia welcome centers across the state. So those grants are not only available to your DMOs, which is your destination marketing organizations in your communities, but they're also resources available for you all to partner with folks in your own community and kind of do your own thing. So Martha was not charging anyone to be a part of their cards. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how that works out. But any of those partnerships, I think we talked about that earlier, that you can reach out to your neighbors or and build those partnerships. It's great. So it works out well in this too.
Yep. So Aaron's back. Aaron, would you like to tell us a little bit about your business and if you have any financial questions?
Yes. Sorry, I don't know what happened. It clicked off. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So, well, for my business plan, I've already have the capital and I already kind of, I'm already in progress on it. But I do have a different question. So, as a small business startup, it was hard for me to get and secure lights and lighting. The tents are pretty cheap because, I do indoor grow supplies. So with people doing indoor growing, the lights were the cost. So getting linked up with a wholesaler, they generally want you to spend around $5,000 to $6,000 on the one, but I don't like to do just one brand. So if I was going to do 4 or 5 brands, I would have to spend $25,000 to $30,000 on just lights, and there's no way I could have done that. So I've been buying them by the ones and twos online and getting my little discounts that I can, but I don't know if it would be a smarter thing to do for inventory. So I could link up with the wholesaler and buy in bulk, as opposed to my ones and twos, and I'd get a bigger profit margin.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true with any kind of
Is that something that I would go through an SBA loan on getting?
I apologize. I didn't quite hear the type of business you had.
I do indoor grow supplies. So I have like soils and nutrients and but the high ticket items are my PAR meters, my Lux meters, and those run from anywhere from $400 to $700 a piece, and then my lights, which could go anywhere from $100 up to $1,900.
You could possibly do a working capital line of credit. Not sure if that would fit with the SBA or not. It's a I don't know. I know enough about the SBA program to get in trouble. Our small business lender handles it. I'll defer to Kate on that one, but it sounds like what you kind of need is a line of credit to where you can pay that down as the sales come in as you purchase those. So,
see, what I do is I got my at first I was just buying and flipping and buying and flipping, and then going and getting used things as well and flipping those as well. and then taking the profits from that and using that again and purchasing more. But I got a Discover card for 9,000, and I've been maxing that out and then selling what I use and then paying it off and then maxing it, paying it off, maxing it, paying it off. And right now I got to pay it all the way down, but I'm about to go and buy another $4,000 or $5,000 worth of lights and other equipment.
Yeah, I mean, you're using that as your line of credit, your working capital line of credit.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm not with Discover. You probably rate wise and terms and things like that would most
I got
likely be
zero.
better.
I got zero APR for 24 months, and I've only just started doing it for 2 months, about a month and a half, and so everything else has just been out of my military retirement.
Yeah, yeah. You're not going to beat zero, so that.
Yeah, I can't beat zero, but I know that after 24 months,
right?
But after 24 months, I should be up and be fine. So,
yeah.
One thing I would recommend where you have that line of credit, there would be maybe check with Kate and see if I know you got that 0%, but maybe check with Kate and get the ball rolling on something that may still be in play and possible once that 24-month ends, because it's, no smart lender is going to tell you to move that money at 0% interest. But like you said, at some point in time, it runs out. And I think the key is to make sure you know what your options are and have something waiting in the wings, like Kate's SBA program that she can go through, that is going to take over that payment for you or pay off that card for you when that time comes. So I think you're on the right track there by using that card, like Erne was saying. But I also think you're on the right track by saying, hey, I need to know something, because 24 months is only 24 months, right?
yes, but also real quick, does that money go up? Because $9,000 only gets me so far.
Yeah, absolutely. So to reiterate everything they said, I definitely can't beat 0%. So I think that's a smart business decision, especially in the short term. But yes, SBA does, through their Cap Line program, can fund inventory purchases. It's a product we're actually seeing grow a lot. So that's definitely something that we could look at helping you with to support that inventory turnover while you're, waiting to sell those products, but also helping to get, the wholesale pricing as well.
Yes. Okay.
And Erne, the only thing I would add to that is to make sure that you are keeping detailed records as far as your accounting is concerned, because that history can help you when you go to apply for a loan that's not 0%.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Especially too, if you, so say you approach us and you want us to actually pay that off for you with opening of a new line of credit, especially if that card is in your personal name, those detailed records give us the ability to be able to pay them off, because we can verify that they were used for business purposes.
Okay. Well, I have a QuickBooks.
Perfect.
I don't know if that helps, but
Oh, it does help.
Yes.
I was talking with a client today that she is actually, they had just purchased the business here. I want to say probably 2 months ago, 3 months ago, and they were looking at applying for a Visita grant. Well, they have a whole lot of their personal money invested into this business, such as a down payment on it, little odds and ends that have tallied up to be quite a bit of money. And something a problem that they have run into is with Visita, they want to see, what you've injected into it, but they more so want to see from a business standpoint. And where they've done everything out of a personal checking account, they're having a hard time showing that was business related, kind of what Kate is relating to. So I not being a line of credit person and not being able to speak at all towards the program that Kate's talking about, I could see where, making sure that all of that can be paper trail back to the business is very important, because other than that, you're going to get into a he said, she said kind of thing, and they're not going to take your side on it.
Yeah, those QuickBooks reports are very good for that, Erne. Okay, so do we have any other questions or comments or specifics that you want to talk to Jeremy, Erne, or Kate about?
No, but I do owe you, Kathy, and Sandy, and a few others an apology because I had just throw Tanya's name out there when I talked about the vast improvement within Abingdon with the hotels and lodging and stuff like that, because I'm sure in your time there as the mayor, Lord knows this project didn't start a year ago and just get thrown up. So I know you've all done your due diligence in getting it going too. So kudos to you all too. I just, looking at the list, I just kind of threw her name out there. So no disrespect intended.
Jeremy, we can be bought by chocolate. Oh, I can't.
I like chocolate and caramel.
I'll hook it up. Y'all gonna feel funny when y'all come into the office and there's a bunch in there.
Okay.
Clint, you've got a question?
Yeah, I just want to ask, it says to pray for Kate and Erne, is there a limit on your line of credit, the working capital you're talking about, as far as you'll do 75, 80%, and then you do a max amount? And then I assume also it's anything over 90 days you take out of that as well?
So are you talking about like advance rates?
Basically like just a line of credit. So if right now I've got a 250,000 line of credit, but anything over 90 days doesn't work. And then it's based on 75%, but for some reason it's capped at 250,000 as opposed to just being, it wouldn't matter if I've got 10 million in accounts receivable under 90 days, it's still capped at that 250.
Sure. So we are going to set a max loan amount that, of course, can be adjusted if you, as your business grows. So say you may need 250 now, next year you may need 500. SBA has a maximum of 5 million. So that's kind of the max loan amount. SBA requires us to cap accounts receivable. That's like you said, anything 90 days and over, we have to discount to zero. Anything below 90 days, 80% on accounts receivable, and then 50% on inventory.
Okay, that answers my question. Thanks.
So do we have any other questions, comments? Okay, Lori.
I'm sorry if I missed this. I think the question I have, I guess all of you, and I know that we're this as a group, we're all in different places. We all have a variety of diverse businesses, but if we've not done this before, how do we discern who to go to? Which of you do we go to? And is there a certain, like a checklist, like go here, go there, go to People Inc. or to First Bank? How do we know where to go first? And I know you work together, so you'll kind of help redirect, but what's the starting place?
I mean, I think I would, if it's a startup, a small, a micro loan, if you need less than 50,000, I think the first place would be Jeremy. He's going to know if it fits what he's trying to do. He knows enough. And what's good about People Incorporated, if it's a bankable deal, they would prefer you to go to the bank and do that loan, because they're there for customers that aren't what you consider bankable in the beginning, which is the small startup, riskier deals. That's kind of what they get their funds for. I would probably start with Jeremy, and he's good about getting you. If it's something he thinks would fit perfect at the bank, he would send you to the bank, I believe. They're not going to force you into something that doesn't work for your business.
Yeah, Ernie's exactly right. If it's something, every time I'm on these type of calls, just like you all, I learn different things that banks have going on that I may or may not have known especially because of COVID. I'm not able to get around and speak with folks as often as I would like to. But I'm always going to first refer people back, if I feel that they're bankable, back to your local bank. Because the local banks, as I've said before, they're staffed with great people. And, they want to find an open door for you if they're not able to help you, and they're good about referring people to us. So likewise with that favor. And on top of that, we have to show to some extent when we do every single loan, I have to give a credit elsewhere statement that outlines either with or without proof, depending upon the loan amount, why you weren't able to go to Erne and get that loan, or why you wasn't able to go to Kate and get that loan. Because like Erne said, we're there to fill in those gaps. So it might not be necessarily that you come to People Inc. last, but I think I speak for all of us when I say you can come to any of us, and we're going to defer you to the best person that can do the best for you, because we want nothing more than to, whether it be nonprofit or for profit. We do better as businesses and agencies when you guys as entrepreneurs succeed, because that puts money right back into the community.
So this is a perfect opportunity. Jeremy, would you tell folks your preferred contact information?
Yeah. So you can reach me by either my cell phone or email. Excuse me. My cell phone number is 276-608-8205. My office number, we since COVID, we work remotely. I'm pretty much remotely except for 2 days a week. So that's my best point of contact is my cell phone, and I'm a texter and so forth. So if you feel more comfortable texting because you're just so busy and so forth, that's fine. No problem there. And we can set up a time to touch base, or you can email me at Repass. That's JREPASS, my first initial last name, at peopleinc.net.
Okay. And Kate, can we have your preferred contact information?
Yes. So I'm kind of the same way. I'm actually in the office, but you're going to get me a lot easier on my cell phone. So that's 276-619-1640. And then email address is the letter K and then Belcher, BELCHER at firstbank.com. And first is spelled out.
Okay. Erne.
The sales 540-250-0170. And then it's
wait
Maddy,
540-250-0170. 0170. Okay.
And then Maddy, just EMADDY at vccva.org. And if you need to get to our small business lender, just contact me and I'll make that connection for you and do the introduction. Her name is, you guys have met her too. She did one of the earlier sessions. Cindy Snyder.
Cindy. Okay.
Cindy is my old boss. I love Cindy. I think a lot of Cindy.
Yeah.
I have to speak good of her. She hired me, for crying out loud.
That's right. That's right. I think we all do. Okay. So now is the time to ask any further financial questions. I see Janice has her hands up.
I'm going to ask a question and make a statement. Something that Aaron said made me think of this just as a business owner for a long time. Keeping your personal funds separate from your business's funds is super critical if you're going to go to the bank and ask for a loan. I think you guys all the bankers may agree with that. Better to fund personal money into a business account as an owner loan and have a clear line of where that money came from. Getting a business credit card, if you can get one, getting a business credit card and running all your business expenses through that, and truly creating a delineation between yourself and your business is one thing. And then as an S Corp and as a designer, looking at what Scott's doing and the tourism stuff, and also looking into the tourism side of it for myself right now, putting together an LLC or an S Corp to protect your personal assets. If you're going to have a bike business or you're going to have an Airbnb, any of that kind of stuff. We haven't really touched on that so far, but creating that barrier between your personal assets so you don't get sued and lose everything you have, unless it was just flat out negligence. I just make that comment because it's a lot easier to get a loan when you can truly see that defined money. I'll sign off on that one, but that was just an observation from my past of getting a loan.
Anybody else have comments, questions? We have a few house cleaning items. So your pitch is February the 22nd, which way?
If the presenters want to bug off, they can. If we just have some housekeeping stuff, if y'all want to leave. Hey, but thank you all. Thank you all. The check's in the mail, especially you, Erne. But thanks, everybody. We couldn't do it without you.
Good luck to
Thank
everybody.
you all.
Yeah,
Good luck with everything.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. So next week is pitch night. If we were in person, we would draw numbers out of the hat. But what we would like for you to do is to volunteer 1 through 11. Who wants to be number 1 to present their pitch? Katie Humphreys, number 1. Who's number 2? Clint Waddell did number 2. Number 3.
Mike, are you number 5 or 3?
Clint is 2.
Does Mike Price? He's holding up 5 fingers.
Listen, everybody went up at once. You know, usually everybody wants to be last. So we got 1 and 2. 3 is Kitsy. 4. Christy
Gillum, 4.
Yep. 5. Aaron. So Scott and Aaron raised their hand at the same time. So I'm assuming Scott wants to be 6. 7. Lori. 8. Where are we? Where are we, everybody? 8. Jamie. We got 9. Michael. 10. 10.
Janet, are you 10?
We got Janet and
Janet will be 10.
And then who's left? Christy?
No, Christy was 4.
Okay, who's 11?
Let's see, Janice, are you pitching?
Nope.
Okay.
Okay.
So that should be, I guess that's everybody if she's not pitching.
Okay.
I think.
Very good. Now, out of those 10 folks, is there anyone who does not want to be recorded for their pitch? So we have permission from everyone that Sandy leaves the recording on. Is that correct?
Good, because that's training for the next group in another year.
Very good. Now, folks, and you know, I understand your hesitancy, but there's all kinds of awards. There's Pitch Award, Best Written Business Plan Award. Come on, help me out here, folks. Best Business Knowledge Award. And those awards are cash up front, you know, go with it kind of awards, as well as the $5,000 awards, whether they're startup, Emory and Henry, or existing and expanding. So do you all have any comments or questions about any of that? I have a question, Clint. Will you tell me where the horses are down at Dixie Potter? Do you have them stored down there?
We have 3 of them here on site. So it's in the fields closest to the Moonlight. So where we're putting the riding arenas in the parking lot, it's the 2 fields directly behind them is where they're at right now. And we have, I think, 5 others over at Tish Jackson's farm working on a regular basis while they're still working on our stalls and barns here on site.
And the only reason I'm asking these questions is because someone asked me today. And so are you mostly right now, Blue Mountain Therapy is physical and emotional therapeutic?
It is. It's physical, occupational, speech, and then ABA behavior therapies for pediatrics as far as at our 3 outpatient locations. And we've got a lot of other services that we do, DD waiver, early intervention, home health in the home. But the equine portion, that's a nonprofit that we're starting up. So it'll be a true separate business.
Okay, thank you.
You're having some childcare. You're providing some childcare too, aren't you, Clint?
We do, and that's at our former location. It's up across, a little further up from Johnson Memorial Hospital. And for our employees, we offer that at 50% off. Right now, I feel like it's just really hard to attract and retain quality employees. So sometimes it's not exactly what you're paying people, it's what they're actually able to keep in their pocket. That's the most important part.
Yeah.
So our benefits, I feel like our benefits really are good.
So do you have openings right now for childcare?
For certain ages, I think that we probably do.
Okay.
So for those that know me will know that I can talk an awful lot, but when it gets into specifics as far as what we have in all these programs, I would just shoot you over to the particular department heads, and I try to really empower them to run those departments and not micromanage.
Good. Good deal. I might call up there and see about after. If they provide after school?
I know that they have some openings for after school, and then at the Dixie Pottery location, it looks like we're going to be licensed for up to 90 kids during the summer for a summer program.
Nice.
And
Are you working at all with United Way?
We are.
Okay, good.
And I just found out today that the Coombs Center is not going to have their summer program that they normally have in their after school program.
Yeah, that'd be good for us to all know, so we can refer folks to you, because that's an issue. I'm a member of a workforce board that has several folks from the region on it. So any information that I could get about that, I can forward on to those guys.
But I can shoot over some information. I know that I've got Nita's email. I can shoot over the daycare information if that would help.
That'd be great.
Sure can.
When we first started the business challenge, all of the folks that were meeting each other and networking in person, they promoted each other's businesses and they helped each other a lot. And so I would encourage you all to, even though we're virtually doing these meetings, I would encourage you all to get to know each other and to try to network with each other, because honestly, in a small rural community, word of mouth is your best advertisement. And so, this is a really great group of folks that I'm very proud of. I think you all have hung in there and worked diligently at what you're doing. And, you have a wealth of knowledge that you can share with each other and with the community, and networking is very important. So I'm very proud of all of you. I'm proud of our programs, and I think this is, this is one of the best parts, is to get to know each other.
Yeah, cross promoting. And you got Katie here that has access to lots of parents and kids, and Clint now has childcare. So I can see that being a great partnership.
I see Katie and Michael's both got their hands up. What do you want?
I was going to ask Clint if he could email me his summer program stuff, because we're trying to figure something out for the kids. That would be great.
Nita, is it okay if I just send everything to you and then y'all can send it out? Does that work?
Thank you.
Sure. Just send it to me and I'll be glad to send it out to everyone.
Okay. I'll get that sent out either tonight or tomorrow morning.
And Michael, you got a question?
Yeah. What's the pitch like format? Are we all on there together?
We will all be online. We will all be online together. I'm glad you said that, because I was just going to butt in and remind everybody. We'll be online like this format, and then what we will do is we'll go in order, and you will be taking up the screen. You're able, if you want, you can share your screen if you want to do a PowerPoint or show a video. How you present it is all up to you. And I think early on, after the first week of the challenge, Nita sent everybody a list of links from past challenges. So you can see how it was pitched last year, or you can see on other programs that I've been involved in. But you have 8 minutes, and then at 8 minutes, that's it. And the The pitch judges will have an opportunity for 2 or 3 minutes to ask you questions so that they can get a better clarification. Maybe they weren't sure about how you're funding this or how you're going to market, whatever that question may be. And then we'll go to the next. And Nita or Kathy will let you know when that 8 minutes is up. So we'll have somebody that'll be running it.
Okay.
Probably in that link, you got something to Hannah Eichen. She owns Spot of Color, and she won pitch last year. So I would. She was on our session last week, if you remember. So I would feel free to reach out to Hannah to see if she has any advice, and be sure to watch her pitch.
So do you know who's startup and who's existing? Like between everybody, there's 10 of us pitching. So do we have numbers?
I don't actually.
It's been changing every week, so I really don't know, Michael. I'd have to. We'll have to look and see from the very first night how many said they were startup or how many was existing, and we'll know that definitely next week. I don't have it. And while I've had several requests, and I will ask you all, would you mind if we shared with each other, with you all? We typically don't give out the list of participants in the challenge, but if you all want internally to know how to get in contact with each other, maybe we can give an email or so forth, but I want to get your all's permission before we share your info. But this will just be within this group.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody got a heartburn with it?
No.
Okay.
Andy, would it be unreasonable to just let everybody go in the chat and put in their information?
Yeah, that's good.
But that's up to them.
It's up to you, just.
If you'd rather share it a different way, we can do that.
Yeah.
Might be nice if everybody's okay with it, just to put it in one document, and then we can all cross-reference it to each other, and maybe websites. If anybody has a website or Instagram, that way we can follow each other too and support each other that way.
That's up to you all. We've always been very protective of our list and not share just because of your privacy. But if you all want it, that's totally up to you. And back on, if you want to, how you want to do your presentation next week, if you want some time later in the week to test screen sharing and how that works, let me know and I'll be happy to do it. I know next Tuesday I have a cancer treatment, so I can't do anything until I'll probably be sliding in here to do the session on Tuesday night. So I know Tuesday next week will not work for me, but anytime rest of this week or Monday, I'm happy to help you all. I know it's this means a whole lot to you all, and I want to help you in any way that I can.
Yeah, don't wait till the last minute, because as Sandy said, she's going to be occupied on Tuesday. So anytime between now and Monday evening, she would be more available than Tuesday.
And Clint and Katie, do you have other questions? Okay.
I did. You just answered my question. I just wanted to see if anybody could, you know me well. I've got mine ready to roll. I just wanted to see if the screen that I share includes the notes that I have. I just want to make sure I'm on the right window. If you don't care to just hang out for like 1 minute afterwards.
I'll be happy to.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much, Sandy.
I had talked to a former contestant. They said in years past, the Emory and Henry Award was only for Glade, Meadowview, and Emory. And they said I should probably verify that that's not the case this year.
It is not. The new Dean of Students, Dr. Emmett Tracy, changed that award and offered the training for employees for up to 3 folks from your organization to be trained through their entrepreneurial program. And so it is not for only the GEMS area. It is for all of Washington County. So all the towns are included in Washington County.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
One more. Will you remind us the date that the written plan is due? Is that also next Tuesday?
No,
March
it
1st.
is,
March 1st.
yep, March the 1st.
Thanks.
And don't make it more than 20 pages if you can possibly help it. You'll think after you get your business plan written, if you start looking at it, read it and reread it, because you'll see that generally folks will get redundant in their business plan. And so, that's the time to start editing and, try not to make it more than 20 pages. These judges, they're going to have 20 pages of 10 people or 11 people. So that's a lot, that's a lot of pages to judge. And if it gets too redundant, you'll lose your audience.
And preferably email those to us, because our judges are in other locations. Some are in a different state. And it makes it a whole lot easier for us to get those to them.
Yeah.
Oh, Scott.
Yeah, just could you guys email Hannah's pitch like by itself to us? I mean, since she won, we should probably all watch it.
We don't have it in an email form. You'll have to go to the Washington County Business Challenge Facebook page, and you can click on the videos and just find last year's pitch. But I swear, I think Hannah wasn't she the year before that, and Jenny was last year? I think
so.
I think Jenny Carlisle won last year, and Hannah was the year before
Crafts
that.
on Main.
Right.
But both of those businesses are located right there pretty close together. One of them's on the corner of Russell Road and the other's across from the police department.
Right. I'm just saying, I think last year's winner was Jenny Carlisle, and the year before that was Spotted Color.
Yeah.
And Scott, it might be faster to find it on the YouTube channel. Just go YouTube and look for Washington County Challenge.
Okay.
And then you can look at them up on chronological order, and you could pretty much tell what would be the last one.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Class. Anyone? I'm Phyllis Bueller.
Okay. Well, good luck next week. It's a long and exciting night, but when you start talking about your own business and doing your pitch, you'd be shocked and amazed at how much you learn from yourself. So good luck to you all, and we will see you next Tuesday night at 6:00, same time.
Katie, hang on. Let me close this out over on my end. Just a second.